I'm Alex B. I'm from Eastern Kentucky, Ashland, Ohio area. And I'm at recovery point right now. I guess started off 15, 16 when I first started to get into the drug lifestyle. I made a choice then to move into a prominently known drug family, chasing a girl. And from there led the kids kind of just a dysfunctional lifestyle. From there we went through just a lot of stuff, man. Abortions, evictions, jail, prison. It was a rough way to live, but at the time it was the only way we knew, so we stayed in it. I believe it took us 18 years of that before we finally reached a point to where we were ever even willing to ask for help or anything like that. And I'll never forget, she'd gotten a bad house fire. We were homeless at the time, living in this cabin out in the woods, not a neighbor around for 2 miles. It was her dad's property, and we had propane tanks in there to cook with, and it was just that real medieval style living, but we ended up having a house fire, man, and she was in the house the time it happened. The propane tanks blew up on her, and we spent 4 months in the burn ward down at Capitol Huntington Hospital. And for the first month of it, she was in a coma, and they were telling me the whole time, make plans, you know what I mean? And I walk outside the hospital, smoke a cigarette, and I'm losing it all. And the director of Recovery Point happened to be having a child at the same time. And as I'm smoking this cigarette and I'm crying I'm just a mess, he walks over to me out of nowhere and he's like, "Hey, my name's such and such." And "My name's Alex." And he's like, "You look like you're going through a hard time right now." I kind of explained to him what was going on and stuff, and he caught on to it real quick. And, you got a substance abuse problem. And where I come from, the pills hit hard. You know what I mean? That was really what opened the doors for me, is when all the pills came in. And I got to talk to him about that and just how it had escalated, you living in hotel rooms and stuff. And he's like, "Well, if you're willing to give this a try, And from there, it just kind of took off. I walked into Recovery Point for my first time, met a group of guys that were just like me, hugging, and "We love you." And I thought, there's something was weird happening here. And I wish I could tell you I stuck around, but I didn't. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks that time. I took back off, went back out, things got worse. Ended up getting diagnosed with hepatitis real bad.
From shooting?
Yeah. And when that kind of happened, it was, I had a couple doctors tell me, like, you're on your way to an early grave, buddy. So I went back to Recovery Point, and that time I actually stuck it out and see what they had to offer, and that's where I met the 12 Steps, Alcoholics Anonymous. That's where all the change started to happen. But it's been a back and forth battle. You know what I mean? 18 years of active addiction, 8 months of recovery. It's not something that sticks very easily, and that's where a lot of my relapses have come. So.
Well, I think someone pointed out the average is, 7?
7 tries.
Yeah. You can do it on the first one, but not everybody does.
Right, you can. I think a lot of it's those people, places, and things. Yeah. That's what, life's hard, right? And in a treatment center, recovery is not only possible, but it flourishes. It's great. It's awesome. You're around 60, 80 guys every day. It's high fives and hugs, and life's great. It's a little different when you get out in the real world. And for a lot of us, we get disconnected, and I find myself alone, struggling, jobs aren't working out, and then before I know it, that relief.
How's your wife?
Ex-wife. We're actually divorced.
So how did she feel about you?
She didn't support it. That was one thing.
Even after the accident?
Even after the accident. She, very early on, like, I knew that if she wasn't in it for recovery, like, it wasn't going to work. We were just I was the fuel, she was the fire. You know what I mean? And we sat down and had that talk. Like, I had 8 months clean. Everything was going great in my life. And I was like, well, if we're going to make this continue, like, this has got to become part of your life. Not our life, but your life. And it was just, she made a choice then, like, I don't have a problem. And I said, well, that's fine. I understand that, but we're going to have to go our separate ways.
She's still in denial?
Yeah, she's bad.
You have children together?
Yeah, we have 2.
How old are they?
16 and 14.
How much of this do they understand, and how are they?
So they were, I want to say they were 8. My daughter was 8, and my little boy was 6 when my mom stepped in. And what had happened was, we're getting evicted all the time, and we got on Suboxone. We did the Suboxone treatment. And for about an 8 or 9 month period, we were stable. And by we were stable, I was holding a job. She was never one to work or anything. Like, she was a bad drinker. But the Suboxone fell off. And before you knew it, she was in jail. I had both kids. The treatment wasn't going on anymore, and my mom stepped in. And she told me, she said, I need you to sign these papers. We're going to take the kids from you. And crushed me, but at the same time, I knew what the right thing to do was, right? Like, just dragging these kids along any longer in the road I was on, if I had any love at all for my children, I would, and that, I'd like to tell you that sent me into recovery, but that sent me into a rabbit hole of just horribleness.
The wrong direction.
Yeah, a lot of self-pity, grief, the guilt, shame, and remorse. Right. And I just reached a point where drugs wouldn't help. I would mass amounts of drugs, and I would still sit there at night crying.
Pills, as well as?
It's mine was progressive. High school, I was that really good athlete, so it was the drinking on the weekends and stuff. Slowly, like, it became pills, and then the town I live in is not a big town, Ashland, but when the 30s, when the doctor shopping and the Florida thing, like, flooded it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it brought it to its stop. And a lot of my friends, we went one or two ways. A lot of my buddies went to heroin. I went towards meth. And then meth took me to places I never want to go again. Like,
Violence?
There was some violence, yeah. There was some violence. When you reach that rock bottom and meth's the only thing that you can feel anymore, like, you get to a point to where you're willing, and it never was violence towards innocent people. I wasn't the one out breaking into your house or anything like that, but what I would justify it because I would say, I'm going to rob the drug dealers. That's what I'm going to do, right? Like, I'm not going to bounce around and take a chance on catching charges and doing all this. I'm just going to go straight to the guy and we'll take him. When I reached that point, it was maybe I'll get lucky and he can do what I'm trying, And yeah, it was a real bad place. I was 140 pounds when I first came in.
What are you now?
205. Yeah.
Were you in high school as an athlete?
Yeah.
Probably about the same.
No, in high school I was like 185.
The 2 children now, are they still with your mother?
Yeah. Yeah, they're with mom, happy. Been in the same school since it happened. Like, they're flourishing.
So how are you having to deal with that with your ex?
No communication.
Does she see the kids at all?
No. No, she's not a part of their lives at all.
And she was part of the family that you went with, the drug.
Right. Yeah, she, like, it's all she's ever known. So I kind of approach it with that direction. Like, I'm not going to talk to her from a mountaintop because I understand her mom was a drug addict. Her dad, when I got with her, we went and picked her dad up from prison. So it's like, it's all she's ever seen. So The way I like to approach it is maybe if I can get my stuff together and she can see me doing really good, maybe that'll kind of spark something to make her change. But
Hope so.
I hope so too.
Man, powerful story. I'm not sure what else to follow up with on that. Dave, anything else?
A couple of people we spoke to today talk about the stigma of being an addict and how society looks at you. And is that changing? Do you perceive that changing at all, or is it still that way, or is there been any?
So I'll never forget this time. I'm up in Parkersburg. I'm actually working for Recovery Point, and our bathrooms went out. Right, so the guys couldn't use the bathrooms. There was a Hardee's across the way, and I thought, me and another guy talking, I said, I'll take them 4 or 5 at a time over there. Right, we'll use the bathroom. First trip, I go over there. Guy's using the bathroom. The manager comes out, and he's like, I would need to talk to you. I'm like, okay, fine. Hey, we go outside, and he says, I don't want you people here. He said, you guys are scaring off my customers. And it was that moment where I was like, okay, like, we'll leave. And it did. It pissed me off so bad, man. I just wanted to, because a lot of people look at us that way. It's you people, right? And until you come into these rooms, you don't understand, like, these you people you're talking about are fathers, mothers, sons, daughters. Like, we're people. You know what I mean? And the guys come out, and I remember the manager telling the guys, like, please, you guys don't come back, because we had to wear blue vests when we walk around town. And I just remember telling them guys, like, this sucks. This really does suck. But the only thing that's going to change us is when we change it. You know, when they see us coming back out here and thriving and doing the right thing. And because I get it. You know what I mean? A lot of addicts, like, we get that image because of what we do in active addiction. It's not nice. It's not clean. Like, any means necessary is what they say, you know? So it's one of those things, like, if I meet one of those you people kind of people, I try to address it with kindness, you know, like, there's real change happening. So.
Well, I think it's part of why we're trying to do all these interviews is show the many different aspects, but also that it affects everybody. You know, rich, poor, what your skin color is, where you came from. It's easy to fall down into that rabbit hole, and it's sometimes incredibly hard to dig yourself out.
Right.
It's interesting that the irony of your situation. You know, you had this horrible, tragic accident happen to your wife, but it's what led to you getting clean.
Right.
You know, finding a new path from her unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
You know.
We like to refer to it as the gift of desperation. All right? I was given this gift, and in recovery, you almost have to look at it like that, because a lot of us, like in my case, I was brought to my knees before I needed help. You know, it's that gift. You know, the pain, the price of admission that we had to pay for recovery to be possible. And then going out and trying to lift the bottom for guys, like, they're on their way. You know, you can see it. You can see the behaviors. Their records, they're starting to get charged. And just trying to get to those guys and say, hey, man, like, this is where it leads. I know that because I was there.
Are you a sponsor now?
No.
Not yet.
No, not yet.
But I think your story will be a great one to share as soon as you get to that next step and you're able to do that. Because of the depth you clung from. And hopefully that'll be enough to change somebody's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Person.
That's all. It's all. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, man. Dave, anything else? That we didn't touch on. Anything else that you want to share? Is there any, like, we talked about that stigma is, something that comes constantly back to everyone that's come through and sat in that seat today, no matter what part of this world they're a part of is, and I think it sounds like everybody's been very hopeful and very positive,
Right.
especially in this region, because I think the state seems to be becoming more and more supportive of separating criminal from addict
Right.
and supporting recovery, treatment and then recovery, both. I'm not sure, is Kentucky as good about that, or is?
They're more of a commonwealth. I know recovery's starting to get it's not as big as it is in West Virginia, but it's starting to get a footing, like in Ashland and stuff like that. I think in order for recovery to spread, that's on us more than I would say the government.
Yeah.
That's
There's a lot of that here. There's a lot of grassroots. That's what I think. We've interviewed a lot of the grassroots organizations that are over in the field, and they are doing that on a very macro level, very local level, trying to build from that. Just saying, look, we can't wait for these other people, the state to come in, or the government to come in. We've got to take action now to get out there and talk to people and try to help.
Yeah. I mean, there's people really dying. I think I've had a lot of friends here recently. Like, I've been in recovery six years now, and not a month goes by that it's not somebody that I know personally that I've been close to.
Is it fentanyl now?
Yeah, it's fentanyl, but the fentanyl, what they're doing is they're starting to put the fentanyl in other drugs, marijuana, cocaine.
The lacing.
Yeah, because of the addictive nature of it. Right now, I can put it in meth and have you hooked, have you going through physical withdrawals.
It's already addictive enough.
Well, you know what? The first time I ever used it, I'll never, and I've talked to plenty of other meth addicts that are the same way. They approached me with this drug and said, this is not addictive.
What was the situation when you first did it?
I was 18 years old, I'd moved in with her and her family, and I was standing in the kitchen one day and her dad walked in and was like, pulled a baggie out and said, hey, I have some of this. Like, and I thought, what is that? Because this guy introduced me to a lot of drugs. And this was my romance period. He says, crystal meth, give me $50, I'll give you the bag. And I thought, all right, cool, man. I gave him $50. He gave me the bag. I dumped the bag out on the table. I separated one for me, one for her. I did mine, and I turned around and looked at him, and he said, that bag would have lasted me 2 weeks. What are you doing? And I just kind of looked at him in a panic, like, whoa. And then it was 5 days later, I'm wide open, me and her have,
So he was dealing.
He was everything.
Dealing, using, and everything.
Right. He was,
Wow, his own daughter.
There's a whole messed up story behind that one day, but it was, being a 17, 18-year-old kid, I looked up to it almost. You know what I mean? And he was a 48, 50-year-old hardened criminal. We just got him out of 20-year prison term. So I just, right off the bat, it was all bad.
Wow. That's a tough situation.
It was. We made the best of it, though,